So by the end of this video, I promise you that you'll understand that you learn 10 times more by finishing one single game than any tutorial in the entire world ever could. Let me tell you first, we are game developers. Why not make finishing your first game your #1 priority? It's like calling yourself a cook, but you have never made a meal, like a painter that has never made a painting, a game developer that has never made a game. Like, you can't say you're a game developer if you haven't made a game, you haven't developed any game, so you aren't a game developer. And I'm just going to say straight away, there are two different issues here, and we'll cover them both. The first issue and reason why you aren't making your first game as your priority is perfectionism, and the second one is lack of skill. Perfectionism, that's where you think, for example, well, the game is going to be bad anyway, so what's the point? Lack of skill, that's where you genuinely can't finish a game because you don't have the skill yet. So if you're, for example, thinking now, well, the game is going to be bad anyway, so what's the point? No one is going to play it, blah, blah, blah. All these things, that's perfectionism. And if that's you, then I'm just going to tell you, you learned so much when you're actually making your first game that you can apply to your second game. So obviously your first game is going to be bad, but your second game is going to be much better, and your third game much better than that as well, and it's going to compound. Because when you're making your first game, you're going to learn so many different things than if you were just constantly making prototypes or watching tutorials. That's not going to teach you like anything at all, basically. But if the problem for you is lack of skill, like you're thinking now, well, like I genuinely can't make my own game, like I don't know what to do, then I'm going to give you a failure-proof method later in the video, so just stay tuned. But I think there's something that we need to cover before that. But first, if you want the entire process, just lay that step by step for you, where you go from a complete beginner to releasing your first game. Everything laid out step by step, completely failure-proof. Then you can join Smartini, first link in the description. But as I said, if your problem is lack of skill, then I'm going to give you the failure-proof method later in the video. But first, I want to say the benefits of actually making games instead of just making prototypes. And that's very important to understand, because when you actually make your first game, you're going to learn so many new things. You're going to learn about marketing. Like before I released my first game, I didn't know the importance of marketing, so I only marketed the game once it was released. And that was like very stupid because I didn't have any hype, and like the game could probably get like 5 times bigger if I just marketed early, like as early as possible, share my progress, all these things. That's something I now know in and out. I know that when I'm making another game and I want it to be like popular, I'm going to market it as early as possible. You also learn how to do scalable architecture, and you also might think that, well, I can learn that in a prototype, but sure, you can learn the theory, but actually applying scalable architecture is something that you only learn from actually making it yourself from the ground up. You only learn, like, something that's extremely important is that you learn planning, because you need to plan all the time. Like, you can't not plan when you're making your first game, then it's just going to become a mess and a bad project. And in general, you just get new issues and concepts and ideas. Like, you learn so many different things when you're actually making a game compared to a prototype. Like, the things that you learn from prototypes are maybe like 5% of the things that you learn from making a game. And not even to mention that, like, just having a project out there, like in the world, something that you made, something that you can show to your friends and family, that's like something that makes you actually a game developer. Like, your self-identity changes from someone that just makes things as a hobby on your PC to actually someone that identifies as a game developer that makes games, because you have something that you can be proud of and that you can actually show, like a product. And it's also going to like drastically improve your skills, not because the things that I mentioned before, like the new things, but because you get feedback from others, you get motivation because you can actually see a result of your work, you can get recognition, and you also get opportunities because you build credibility. So now you know that. But as I said, if your problem is lack of skill, I'm going to give you the failure-proof method right now, so that you can actually know where to start, like something you can do today to start preparing for your first game, because now you know how to automate this. So we already talked about, to learn something, we need to do that thing. So to learn how to make games, we're going to make games. But I'm not going to tell you to just make a game and then end the video. I'm not going to do that. I'm nicer than that. What I'm going to tell you is to make like a small piece of a game. So for example, if you want to make a 3D shooter, for example, as your first game, like a very simple 3D shooter, then what you're going to do is that you're not going to make like a 2D Sudoku game, whatever. you're going to make that 3D shooter. And you're going to make parts of that game, like in experimenting. And you're not going to use tutorials for this. Like if you need more explanation on why you shouldn't use tutorials, then you can watch my other videos. But what you're going to do is that you're going to focus on actually building and using Google to learn like the things that you need to make. So for example, if your game was going to be making a 3D shooter, what you're going to do is that you're going to make the movement system, then you're going to make like a shooting system, and just make a lot of like relevant prototypes to the game that you want to make. And when you know like roughly 80% of the things you need to start with that small idea, that small first game of yours, 80%, then you can start developing the game, and the rest of the 20% you can learn while developing the game. So in short, just make relevant experiments and prototypes, like small parts of the game. And the purpose of those are going to be things that you can either reuse in the project or things that you are going to learn when you're making the project. So ideally, you're going to make like an awesome movement or shooting system that you can actually use in the game itself. That's like the ideal scenario, but if you are a beginner, just focus on like experimenting and trying to learn. That's like the thing I recommend if you are more of a beginner. And as I said, if you want this entire process in much more detail, later step by step, join Smartin today. But either way, I want to say thank you for watching this show, and I encourage you to start experimenting today.